Hi, Rosen. Good afternoon. So in the meantime, while waiting for more people to join our session, feel free to pop into the chat any requests for any charts that you'd like me to go through today. Yep, you can pop it into the Q&A section or in the chat function. I'll be monitoring both. And yep, and then we can begin shortly. Okay, so hi, Rosen, and hi, Fergus. How are you guys doing today? Just let me know in the chat so I know as well if the chat function is working. And if you guys can hear me as well. And where are you guys from? Like, feel free to let me know in the chat. I'm good, thank you. It's been a rainy day today in Sydney. I heard the weather in the UK has been really nice recently. So I'm so jealous of that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, quite sunny today. That's nice. We're heading into winter now in Aussie. So getting ready for the cold weather. Okay, so today we're gonna be looking at live trading analysis. So feel free to pop into the chat any chart requests that you guys might have. And I'll try and go through as many of them as I can within this session. So as usual, a disclaimer. The information expressed in this presentation on the following slides are solely those of the presenter and not necessarily those of Vantage, and are solely used for educational purposes and do not constitute investment advice and/or consultation on how a client should trade. Vantage does not guarantee the accuracy or reliability of the information provided herein. So make sure that you do your own due diligence before trading any of your own money. And Vantage accepts no responsibility for any loss, including without limitation to any loss of profit resulting directly or indirectly from reliance on such information. Here's our team. We have Desmond, who's our chief trader and CEO of the company Everest Fortune Group, who are finalists for Best FX Research and Best Equity Research in 2019, 2020, and 2021. And I'm Melanie, and I'll be your speaker for today. Okay, so without further ado, let's get right into the charts. Let me just pull up my trading view. Okay, I think last week we had a request for WTI or crude oil. Not so sure who requested it, but I think we will go through that first. Oh, let me share my screen. Okay. WTI natural gas. Okay, let's go ahead and start with WTI first. Okay, let me clear my charts. So as usual, we want to start on a higher time frame. We're going to start with monthly. Okay, maybe weekly instead. So this is just so that we get a general idea of where charts prices are heading towards. So you can see prices are heading in a downtrend on our weekly time frame, on our daily time frame as well. And we typically start analyzing on either the 4-hour or the 1-hour time frame, depending on which gives us a clearer chart movement. Okay, let's go ahead and analyze on the 1-hour time frame. So let me see. So Roseanne, where did you go in for a buy or for a sell, and from which levels? Okay, so here we have a descending trend line that has been broken out of. Actually, let's see if we have a trend channel instead. Buy, okay. I would also go in for a buy because we can see price bounced off from this support level here at this swing low at 64.994. And we can see that it's moving in a upward direction now. Okay, I can't find any valid trend lines or trend channels, but I think we can all agree that price definitely broke out of this descending trend pattern and now it's heading in a bullish momentum. So instead, let's go ahead and look for support and resistance levels. So here I've identified our first support level. So first support. And as usual, we want to see if we can pull back this support level as far as possible, which is why I'm zooming out. But as you can see, that isn't. So we're going to leave it there. So now that we have our first support level, let's go ahead and look for a resistance level. Okay, so here is, I'm not going to label this as my first resistance, but rather just an intermediate resistance level to take note of. Why? Because here we have a swing low, which lies nicely in line with this swing high over here, thus making it an overlap resistance, which is a pretty significant level to take note of. So once price breaks out of this resistance level, we can go in for a buy. Okay. So here's my first resistance level. Similarly, we have a swing low lines in nicely with a swing high. Okay, so now that we have our levels, let's pull out our Fibonacci retracements. Here you can see my Fibonacci retracement levels, 50%, as well as the 38.2%, line up nicely with my first resistance as well as my intermediate resistance. So let me just delete that. So to make things cleaner, because you don't want to get too confused with all of the different levels, I'm just gonna keep 50 as well as 38.2. Okay, now for Fibonacci projection, we want to look for a flash symbol. So something like this. So I can pull out my Fibonacci extension, starting point, middle point, and ending point, just to see if we have any levels that line up nicely. So for Fibonacci extensions, we typically use 3 levels, 61.8, 78.6, as well as the 100% level. Now you can see over here, none of the levels line up with my any of the support and resistance levels. So I'm going to get rid of that. Here you can also see that I have a Nike tick where you put the first stop loss. Okay, so here we can see we have a Nike tick. And if you've been here for our support and resistance or the Fibonacci webinars, a Nike tick is what we call a Fibonacci extension. Let me remove that. So we make use of the Fibonacci retracement. Starting point and ending point will be here. And we typically want to use these two levels, the 127.2 as well as the 161.8. Once again, you can see these two levels line up nicely with my first resistance and intermediate resistance. Okay, so for my stop loss, because there aren't any levels that go beyond my first support, so I could actually place my first support nearer to my entry. So perhaps here. And then in that case, my stop loss would be here. If your entry is once it breaks through the intermediate resistance. So that it's closer to your entry point. Then your stop loss will be either here or like further in between towards the first support. Okay. Let me get rid of this. So if your entry is, if you're looking to go in for a buy at the intermediate resistance over here, then that would be your entry. Perhaps somewhere here would be your stop loss, and then your take profit would probably be somewhere around our first resistance. So your take profit would then be where our first support is. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But I would only go in for a buy once it actually breaks through the 127.2%, because we can see with these two Fibonacci levels lining up nicely, as well as the intermediate resistance being an overlap resistance. It's a pretty strong resistance area. So you can see price already tested it before, and now price is going back to test it once again. So I will only go in for the buy once it actually breaks out of this resistance area. Okay. Okay, so now that we've identified all of our Fibonacci levels, as well as the support and resistance levels, let's go ahead and make use of some indicators to support our analysis. So as usual, we like to make use of the Ichimoku, and we're just looking at the clouds in this case, because at one glance, you immediately know whether it's giving you a bullish signal or a bearish signal. So if I zoom in here, you can see price is moving above our Ichimoku cloud, giving us a bullish signal. So it supports our bullish bias. Next, let's take a look at MACD. Similarly, MACD also gives us the signal at one glance. So here we have a red area signifying a bearish signal. So let's get rid of that. RSI. Okay, so for RSI, let me just mark out the area that we're going to look at. This is something that we call a divergence. If you take a look here on price chart, price has made a lower low. However, on our RSI chart, price is making a higher low. So this is an indicator, or we call this a bullish divergence, and it indicates that price is likely to continue in a bullish momentum after this point, which we can see that it did, and it's likely to continue in that manner. Let's see. If this gives us a, yep, so it's moving upwards, so it does give us a bullish signal as well. So we can keep our, sorry about that, we can keep our RSI. Okay, now let's take a look at stochastic. So I'm curious to know what indicators you guys normally use. Can let me know in the chat. Similarly, for stochastic, you can see price has made a slightly higher low as well. Very slight, but it is a higher low. MACD, RSI, the stochastic, as well as volume. Yep, I'll definitely talk about that a little bit as well if we still have time. Yep, so there are so many indicators over here, but MACD and Bollinger Bands. Okay, let's take a look at Bollinger Bands actually. So you can see price is moving up. Oh, you can see price is moving above the orange line for our Bollinger Band, giving us a bullish bias. So it also supports our bullish bias. So we can go ahead and wait for price to break through this intermediate resistance here, and then go in for a buy. There are so many indicators, so it's important to practice using some of the indicators that you like to use, and then stick to those indicators whenever you're doing your analysis, because there are so many, and like 50% of them will give you a bullish signal, 50% will give you a bearish signal. So make sure that you stick to those that you know how to use them well, and then you can use them to support your analysis. Okay. Let's see. Natural gas. Okay, let's look at natural gas. So you always want to start on a clean chart so that you don't have any biases from the indicators that you used previously. So same thing, we're going to look at the monthly time frame first. You can see natural gas is kind of a ranging currency. Now let's take a look at weekly. So weekly gives us a very bearish signal. On our daily as well. Now let's look at 4 hours as well as our 1 hour. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and analyze on our 1 hour time frame. So Rosen, are you considering going in for a buy or a sell for natural gas? Have to buy in a second time, not now. I I actually don't know too much about natural gas fundamentals. But from technicals alone, if we are trading in the direction of where trend is heading towards, which it's recommended that you do that, we can see prices are moving in a downtrend. So it might actually be a good idea to go in for a sell if you're doing it now. Because I see you said that you're not doing it now. So I'm not so sure where prices are heading towards. Especially because as we've seen from our monthly as well as our weekly charts, natural gas tends to be a pretty fluctuating price chart, and I can't advise because I don't know much about fundamentals for natural gas. I always lose on natural gas. Yeah, because it's a pretty fluctuating chart. So it's important that you keep up with your fundamentals as well as your technicals for this specific price chart. Okay, let's just go ahead and analyze it anyway. So firstly, now that we've identified our general trend, let's see if we have any trend lines or trend channels. Here I have a descending trend line. Okay, and I can see prices are moving in a descending trend channel as well. So remember, for a descending trend line, what makes it valid is if it has 3 significant touches on top. And for a valid descending trend channel, you want to make sure that it has 2 significant touches on top. In this case, we have 3, and 2 significant touches on the bottom of the channel. Okay. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and get our support and resistance levels. So for your support level, you typically want to put the first one as close to where current price is. So price is currently here. So my nearest swing low would be here. And if I want to pull it back as far as possible, okay, that would be about here, this area here. Okay, and then Now let's look for a second support, which is pretty easy. It's just at this swing low here. And then now let's look for a resistance. So your resistance would be the closest swing high to where price currently is, which would be about here. And I can't pull it back any further, so I'm just going to leave it here. Okay, so now that we have that, let's take a look at some Fibonacci levels. So remember for our retracement, we use these 5 levels, 23.6, 38.2, 50%, 61.8, and 78.6. Okay, we can see my 38.2% lines up with my first resistance, so we can keep that. Okay, that's about it. So I'm going to keep my 38.2. Now if we zoom in, you can see I have a little bit of a flash symbol over here. So in that case, we're gonna use our Fibonacci retracement from here to here. So sorry about that. I don't know why that keeps happening. I'll try and get that sorted out by next webinar session. But bear with me for now. So for this specific shape over here, I'm going to use Fibonacci expansion. So for expansions, we use the negatives. Okay, and actually I have a level over here that I forgot to mark out earlier. So this level would be my second resistance. And it's pretty significant because it's an overlap resistance. You can see there's a swing low here and a swing high here. And it lines up nicely with my negative 27.2%. Okay, so if we're going in for a sell, and your entry, so now we're just putting out our support and resistance levels to take note of. When you're actually trading, you wouldn't want to trade from these levels. Instead, because trade management is completely different from just technical analysis, so we want to put your entry perhaps over here. So instead of my first resistance here, I probably put it a little bit closer to where price currently is. So that would be my entry. And my take profit would probably be a little bit higher as well, just so that I don't miss out on if price actually reverses off. Because you can see for my take profit at the second support, it's quite a distance within this descending trend channel for the price to travel within. So I probably put it a little bit before this swing low over here. So a little bit higher up. And for my stop loss, instead of putting it so far away at my first resistance, I probably leave it a little bit closer as well. So for your stop loss, you want to put it beyond any specific lines. So for example, here, my 38.2, that's an indicator for your Fibonacci. So I would put my first resistance beyond that, so a little bit closer to where price currently is. Okay, so now we've done our entry levels, stop loss levels, all of that. We can go in and take a look at our indicators. So same thing, I'm going to start with Ichimoku. Okay, so let me zoom in. I can see prices are moving below my Ichimoku cloud, which is a bearish signal. So it supports our bearish bias. We can keep that. Now if we take a look at MACD, MACD is giving us a little bit of a green area, which is a bullish signal. So let's delete that. RSI. So for RSI, let me highlight these two areas. Same thing as earlier. So sorry about this. You can see prices are kind of heading upwards on our RSI, but on our price chart, it's moving downwards. So this could actually be a bullish signal as well. Let me just color this screen. So if you are going in for a sell, I would probably wait for price to break through this area first, this red level here at 2.307 before going in for a sell. Okay, now let's take a look at stochastic. Okay, stochastic isn't really telling us much, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. Okay, so in this case, our indicators don't fully support. So only 1 out of 4 of the indicators that we've used actually support our analysis. So in this case, I would wait for price to break through here before going in for the sell. Unlike our previous WTI, because we had 3 out of 4 of the indicators that we used supporting our analysis. So it's a clearer decision to make. Do you guys have any questions? Gold. Okay, let's take a look at gold now if there are no questions. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Let's look at gold. So, Rosen, are you going in for a buy or a sell for gold? Buy. Okay, let's take a look. Let's start with monthly time frame. Oh, let me delete all of this. Okay, yeah, we can see prices are heading upwards on our monthly time frame and on our weekly as well. Daily as well. And 4 hours. Okay, let's analyze on our 1 hour chart. So gold is often closely linked with DXY or the US dollar. So it's important to continue your fundamental analysis or reading up on the news, basically. If you want to trade gold, it's important to keep up with US news, any of the NYSC, because that is closely related with gold. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So firstly, same thing, we're going to identify any trend channels. I don't think we have any trend channels here, but we can all agree that prices are definitely heading in an uptrend. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with support and resistance levels. So this is always the first thing that we start with, even though I mentioned that these are not exactly our entry or stop loss levels. They definitely are references for your stop loss and entry levels, but they're not necessarily the exact levels to use, because it's important to take note of the ratio of the distance between your take profit, stop loss, and your entry. So I'll show you what I mean in a bit. So here's our first support. Okay. Okay, I was considering putting my first support over here because, as I mentioned, we want to put it as far back as possible. But this is a little bit too far back, so I'm just going to leave it here. Because anyway, at this point, we can see with one swing high as well as a couple of swing lows, this first support at 1937 is a pretty strong level of support since price has tested it many times before. Okay, so let's pull out some Fibonacci levels. I'm going to start with retracement. Okay, I have my 38.2, which lines up with my first support. So I'll just keep that. Okay. Mm, for your Fibonacci projection, I have a flash symbol here as well. So I'm expecting prices to continue to rise to our first resistance in line with the 61.8%. So since I have that flash symbol, so typically, let me show you. With a flash symbol, you can use the Fibonacci projection, which is what I've just done, and you can use the Fibonacci expansion together with that. So your Fibonacci expansion uses the negatives. So we use negative 27.2 and negative 61.8. Okay. So I can see this area over here is not a specific level, but I can see my 100% lines up closely with the negative 27.2. So I'll just be keeping that. And then for my Fibonacci projection, I will just keep my 61.8 and 100%. Okay, so this area here, since we don't have any resistance level higher than my first resistance, this would be my second resistance that we can take note of. Okay, so in this case, if you're going in for a buy towards first resistance, your entry point would be somewhere where price currently is, take profit at our first resistance, and then your stop loss would be before the first support. So not exactly here, but somewhere further up. Okay, but if you are heading for a buy towards the second resistance, in that case, you definitely want to wait for price to break through the first resistance level, since it's a swing high resistance, and it's also lined nicely with the 61.8% Fibonacci projection. So because of all of that confluence, you want to wait for price to break through here before going in for a buy towards second resistance. Okay, so now let's pull out some indicators. Same thing, I'm going to pull out Ichimoku and MACD. I've actually never used the pivot points indicator. Let's try that and take a look. Okay, firstly, we can see price is moving above our Ichimoku cloud. So it's a bullish signal. And we can see on our MACD, it's also giving us a bullish signal. Okay. S2, S1, R1, R2. I've actually never used this indicator before, so I can't really comment on it. Do you normally use this indicator, Roslyn? I'm gonna have to look into this because this is quite interesting to me. So thank you for suggesting we try that. Okay, I'm gonna leave this here, but let's pull out RSI as well. Here we can see on our RSI, we have an ascending trend line. So it gives us another bullish signal. And for stochastic, okay, stochastic isn't really telling us much over here, so let's remove that. Just for the next pivot point, the indicator is correct pivot points and okay, that's good to hear. I'm gonna go ahead and read up on this indicator. Okay, I think we have time for one more currency pair. Do you guys have any charts you want me to go through? Ethereum. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at NAS 100 first. Well, Fergus, are you going in for a buy or a sell? Okay, so this is NAS 100 on a monthly time frame, and on a weekly time frame, we see price heading. Looks like it's heading upwards. Daily as well. Four hours and 1 hour. I'm gonna go ahead and analyze on our 4-hour chart. Okay, if we take a look at the general trend for this chart, it is a upward trend, but it's kind of ranging as well because we can see a lot of up and then down and up and down. So some significant swing highs you see over here. Okay, so I have my ascending trend channel. So let's go ahead and put some support and resistance levels. So let's quickly do this so we have time to do Ethereum as well. So here's my first resistance, first support. Now we're going in for a buy. Since we're following the general direction of trend, I would need okay, I was just taking a look to see if I could pull my first resistance, first support further back. Okay, so here's my second resistance. Okay. So I'm going to pull out some Fibonacci levels. Let's start with retracement. So my 23% lines up nicely with my first support, which is good. And I can see over here the 50% is also in line with this swing low support here. I'll label this as our second support. So these are just some levels that we can take note of first. $23 and $50. Okay. So here we also have a flash symbol here, like this. So I'm going to pull out my extension. I can see my 100 lines up with this swing high here, but that's a little bit far from where price currently is, so we can ignore that first. How about my 61%? Okay. So actually, should I put it over here because we have a little bit of a jump in price here. So it'll be over here instead. Then you can see my 61.8% lines up with my second resistance. Okay, let's try one more. I'm going to try an expansion, which means the negatives, just to see if we have any that line up. Okay, no. Okay, so here are our Fibonacci levels. Okay, we have a retracement over here as well, and I can see the 61.8 lines up with my first support. Yeah, so I'm going to keep the 61. Okay, here. So I would go in for a buy once price breaks through the first resistance here. So sorry about this disconnection. Actually, I think you can go in for the buy now because I mistook this 0% as a Fibonacci level, but it's actually not. So because this is just it just shows us our starting point. So you can go ahead and go in for the buy right now, actually, towards either the first resistance if you want to be safe, because this first resistance has 3 significant swing highs, so it's likely to reverse back to this resistance level. But if you want to go in for the second resistance, then you would wait for price to break through the first resistance first to get upside confirmation before going in for the buy towards the second resistance. But if you're going in for a buy towards the first resistance, which is just a couple of pips to the first resistance, price is currently here. It's just a few pips. Yeah, you could go ahead and do that because there isn't much resistance between this area here. Okay, let's pull out some indicators. Ichimoku MACD. Okay, price is moving above on our Ichimoku, which is a bullish signal. On our MACD, it gives us a bearish signal. RSI, we see price moving upwards, so it's a bullish signal. Stochastic, let's take a look. Okay, stochastic doesn't really tell us much as well, so we can move that. Okay, I think that's all the time we have for today. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm so sorry we didn't have time to go through Ethereum. Or actually, maybe we could go through it quickly now. I did have a look at Ethereum earlier on, so this is what I have done. I don't think I have time to go in detail, but our first support would be, this is a 4-hour chart. So my first support is over here. Sorry, my levels have moved around since then. So I'm gonna have to do it all over again. But I think we'll go through this next week. Let me just briefly go through the support and resistance levels for this. So here we have a support level here, resistance level here. There isn't much if you're heading to buy towards our first resistance, which is over here, there wouldn't be too much resistance between where price currently is towards our first resistance. So you could go in for a buy now. We can see prices are moving upwards as well. So you definitely, it's advised to go to follow the general trend of price, which in this case is an uptrend. So if you're thinking of buying, it could be a good time to buy towards our first resistance. Because simply because there isn't much resistance between the first support and resistance. However, it's important to take note of the fundamental analysis as well. Make sure that you read up on Bitcoin and Ethereum news as well. Okay, I think that's all the time that we have for today. So sorry we didn't have enough time to go through Ethereum in depth. But I hope we'll definitely go through that next week. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. No worries. Thank you guys so much for today. I really enjoyed today's session, and I hope you guys did too. And have a great rest of your day, rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Thanks, Roseanne. Thanks, Fergus. See you guys next week.